Hi, I'm Jim, and this is Call to Battle. Hey, how well do you know who you are? No, someone came up to you and said, who are you? Would you just give your name or your occupation? Hey, I'm Jim, I'm a pastor. Not much of an identity if you think about it. But we're so much more than that. But why do we condense it to something as simple as that when we're so much more? Scripture tells us when God talked to Jeremiah to David, he said things like, "I knew you when you're in your mother's womb. No, I knew you when you were conceived." Like God, if God knows us that well, He has an identity for us, and if we can know our identity, then we know where we're going. No one can get us off that road. People can try. I mean, to get off that road, we have to decide to get off that road. But in this world, the world keeps trying to tell us who we are. The tree tells us what a man is, what a marriage is, what a husband is. I mean, they are so insulting men nowadays. It's sad. But when we know who we are, understand our identity, it's amazing what we can accomplish. I mean, I'm seeing more and more how they keep trying to tear down not only men, but marriage. It's a sad thing. But, knowing who we are, there's a great scene from Gladiator I really enjoy. It's where Commodus, who's the bad guy, comes up to Russell Crowe's character. He's in the arena and he asks, "Who are you?" And he says, I'm Gladiator. And of course, Commodus doesn't realize the Gladiator is the man he tried to kill years ago and wasn't able to do it. Didn't realize it wasn't done. He thought it was done, but it wasn't. He asked him who you are. And the lines from the movie is he says, he turns his back to Maximus, turns his back to Claudius, Commodus, who's the emperor. You're not supposed to do that. And he says to him, "How dare you show your back to me? Slave, you will remove your helmet and tell me your name." And so he turns around and he takes off his helmet and he says, "My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commanders of the armies of the north, general of the Felix legions, loyal servant to the true emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next." Great line. I mean, having your goal as vengeance, not the greatest thing in the world. But he tells him who he is. This is who I am. This is my identity. It's not like, "Oh, Maximus Decimus Meridius." No, this is who I am. I am a general. I am a commander. I am the father and a husband of a murdered, and I will have my vengeance in this life and the next. So people ask, who are we? And that's something it seems we have trouble answering at time of who we are. And if we can know it works so well for us, for identity-wise. Like years ago, I studied what it meant to have to understand who I was. And we were doing this gifts class at our church, and then it went further, went to personalities. Here's what I discovered. One of my gifts was apostleship. That means I like to start things. I didn't realize that was what it meant. And I realized that's a passion for me. You want to know how you design your identity, find out how God made you. I like to start things. I planted a church and I started a consultant business at one point, and I find great joy even in the churches I pastor. I'm starting new things, new outreaches. It's my joy. I'm not a sustainer. A sustainer is a person who likes to keep it going, and you need those people. They are crucial. I like to start things, get them going, and then hand them off and have the person sustain them. But that's where my passion, my excitement comes from, is starting things. I had to learn that about myself. Also, I found out, am I structured or unstructured? I'm unstructured. To me, it's like you do need structure. Don't get me wrong. Unstructured doesn't mean, you just have chaos everywhere. No. But part of me does not find that my tendency isn't in that structured area. But I still know how to work around it. And I also have people in my life who are structured, which help balance it out. But the strength of unstructured people, when things go wrong, that's when we shine. An unstructured person does really well when things go off the rails because we fly by the seat of our pants. That sometimes we'll get excited about, like, okay, we can handle this, we can do this. Are you people-oriented or task-oriented? I discovered I'm people-oriented. That means you get your energy from one or the other. Like being with people, energizes me. I have a party, people are there. Man, I get revved up. I enjoy it. When the party's over, I'm still going. I need time to calm down and relax. Or when I take tasks on at the church, or my job, I want to do it with people. When the worst things in the world is put me in the office by myself for hours, which I have to do at times, but hours, and it's going to be draining. At some point, I have to get out of my office and be with people. But there's task-oriented people who get their energy by doing the task. They love being in the office. They like being by themselves, and that pumps them up. But task-oriented people they like being with people, but it'll tire them out. Like a task-oriented person at a party, but in the party, they're just exhausted and they want to go to bed. They had a great time, it was wonderful, but they don't get their energy that way. And that's when I found out, oh, this is where I get my energy. It's finding out who I am. And I also discovered my identity, of course, is in Christ. Well, what does that mean? Well, I realized when I say I want to be a husband, when I proposed, that I was going to be a husband that God says I'm supposed to be. That means divorce was not an option. For my wife, Fever, no, I was going to be the husband of Kristen. Well, that was for better or worse, sickness or poor, sickness or in health, rich or poor, to death do we part. There's not an out. There isn't like, oh, I'll be her husband unless we divorce. No, it's to the end, and which means I was going to work on our marriage, and I was going to make sure it was always good, that we're always growing, always maturing. I was going to do my part, and she was making the same promise, so I knew she was going to do that, and so our marriage has been fantastic. There's never even been a discussion of separation or divorce. It has never been on the table, because we realized we're going to work through things, because that's part of my identity. I am the husband of Kristen. I'm going to be a man who takes his vows and takes his commitments seriously. That's who I am. I take my vows and commitments very seriously. I am the father of CJ, Caleb, and Jacob, which means I was always going to work at being a better father, knowing my kids, and knowing my kids know that they can rely on me. I was going to be there for them. They weren't going to be abandoned by me. I was going to push them aside. They weren't going to be third, fourth, fifth priority in my life. They were always going to be in this. No. So it was, I should say, it's going to be God, my wife, my kids, and then my job. I worked at that, but I am the father of CJ, Caleb, and Jacob. That doesn't stop. Now, they're grown now. Of course, my oldest son has passed away. My second son, Caleb, who's 29. My youngest son, Jake, who's 26. I'm here for them, even at these ages. Until I'm here, till it's my time where I pass away, I'm here for them. And if they decide children, I'll be there for their grandchildren. I'll be their grandparent for their children. And I'll take that seriously. This is all part of identity. Do you know who you are? And mostly, I am a servant of Jesus Christ. I will serve him. I will not fear this world. I will not fear, humanity. I will fear God, and that's it. I'll fear not listening to God, not following to God. I've told a story where my town threatened to throw me in jail because I was having a prayer service on Good Friday, where the selectman was yelling and screaming at me, pointing his finger at my chest, trying to intimidate me. I said, sir, it's not going to work with me. I know who I am. I know what I've been called to do. And I serve Jesus Christ. I will be having a prayer service on the Common at noon on Good Friday. And he said, well, then I'll arrest you. I'm like, fine, arrest me. He was a selectman. I'm like, feel free to arrest me, because I know what I'm doing is not illegal. We're not blocking walkways. There's going to be about 15 of us. As a matter of fact, I'm allowed to be there. I checked with lawyers that we're breaking no laws. He's like, well, if you do it, we're going to arrest you. I said, go ahead. I said, you just step outside your building, noon on Good Friday. That's where we'll be. And he went to arrest me on Good Friday. But every news station, every newspaper showed up to see if he's actually going to do it. He backed down. The police were there, but he backed down. But I wasn't going to flinch, because I knew who I was, and I know who I was called to be. And so I wasn't going to be nervous about that. And it's amazing how many people will if they don't know who they are. Knowing who we are, knowing the identity that God has given us, shows us our path. Shows us how to be a great husband, how to be a great father, how to be a man, especially in this world, how to be a man that knows how to go forward, loves the Lord, stands strong, does not fall in the wind, but knows how to walk his road. We learn these things by knowing our identity, and the only person who can take that away from us is us. And we need that in this world, because the world is kept trying to tell us who we are, and they're wrong. God's identity of us is the perfect thing. But only if you want a strong marriage, if you want great relationship with your kids, if you want to be a man that people respect. If you want that, go God's way. If you want what the world wants, who is very fickle and changes their mind simply every 5 minutes, you can go that way. But I know my identity. Know yours. life will get much better. Well, that's all I had this week. God bless. Hope you have a fantastic week. See you next week.